Parents of incoming freshmen or just graduated seniors that are going to college, I want to talk to you about some things that you might not be aware of, making sure that they've got their things from home that they want to take, maybe finding out about the roommate and who's going to have the refrigerator and who's going to have all the things. I remember those talks with my daughter when she went to school. But you might not be thinking about the identity shift that happens with your incoming freshman and happens with you. And you're both going through it at the same time. That makes it a super difficult transition. Not only is it such a transition just for your child moving away for the first time, but for you too. And it can cause some conflicts and some sadness and some hurt feelings in so many ways. And I want to talk to you about that. And I'm going to help you with them. First of all, if you don't know me, I'm Cynthia Koval, and I have a podcast, The Teen Anxiety Maze. I created a program, the Anxiety Maze Navigator, for all sorts of ages of young people who are navigating anxiety. This year, I am starting a program where I am working with college freshmen to help them to see everything that's right about them so that they can use all of that stuff, their strengths, their values, their skills, and their interests to create a plan for all the other things that maybe they haven't thought about when they're going to be a freshman and be an adult for the first time. And we create a plan together. And then I have some group sessions with other people in the program that are also college freshmen, so they can meet people from all over the place that are in the same stage of life as they are, hear about what's going on with them, realize that they're not alone in this whole process. And all along, I'm giving you little updates about how things are going too. So I think this is the best way to help people of this age because they don't really want their parents helping them anymore. And you don't want to just send them off and not have a clue about what's going on or just be pacing the floors at night worried about things. And so this is the best of both worlds. Your child will have an adult who is helping them navigate this new transition, and you will be getting behind the scenes, not secret, but behind the scenes updates about what they're learning and what's going on with them. And maybe, ways that you can talk to them about what's going on. And I think this is just like the best of any program for college freshmen because they can work on all the skills they haven't really worked on yet. Because we know they're going to be a good student, or at least they've been a good student. So, they have the skill of being a good student. They were taught that for 12 plus years, but they weren't always taught all the other things that they were going to need to have to be a successful adult. And that's what I do. And so I'm so excited to be able to do that for you. And if you listen to this, if you listen to me as a podcast, then make sure that you follow or like that podcast so that you can get updates about that. If you watch me on YouTube, make sure you subscribe so that you always know when there's a new episode to learn more things that you need to as a parent and where anxiety is somehow in the mix. And at the end, I'm going to have an opportunity for you to sign up for the priority list for college freshman program. And I want to make sure that you are able to do that. Most of the time, when you hear things about the empty nest, and I know that some of you might be just sending one child off and you still have children at home, so you don't really necessarily have an empty nest. But anytime we read things or see articles about the empty nest time or when children leave our home, it's about the emotional side of that, the loneliness, the sadness, the missing them. And yes, those things happen. I think the bigger problem is how you're changing who you are. You have been the manager and parent of this child for 18, usually 18 years. I went to college at 17, but usually 17, 18, 19 years, you have been that person. And all of a sudden, everything about that world changes for you. And I focus on the changes that happen with your child. And I want you to know about those too. But I want you to think about how this is going to change your life. Because if you were really involved in school activities with your child and, went to all their whatever the things that they were in, and you have friends that are connected to those events, and you're not gonna go to those events anymore, some of your friendships may change, which seems really strange. Like, those are things that people don't think about very often, that that part of their life will change. You're gonna have extra time because now you're not the sole manager of everything that goes on, getting kids up, getting lunches, telling people what to do all the time. And if this is your last kid leaving, you really will have a lot of empty, open time because you aren't the manager of that anymore. Your relationship with your partner or the co-parent of that child is going to change because most of your life up until now has been a lot about managing and organizing this child's life. And that's not happening as much anymore. And so if you are in a married relationship, you and your partner will have to find different things to talk about. And maybe, the extra time might be good where you can start doing some things together, more time together. But maybe that time feels really awkward and you're not really sure what to do with it. And they're not really sure what to do with it. And then who knows about that? So these are things like to think about ahead of time because then these things won't blindside you and you won't be wondering, oh my gosh, what do we do now? And you'll be thinking about it ahead of time so that you can make proactive plans on how to deal with this identity shift for yourself. And the Resilient Launch program that I've created for college freshmen is about being proactive because a lot of times we don't know if our child's going to be doing well in college. I mean, we hope that they will and we assume that they will, but we don't know that for sure. And so there's a lot of worrying behind the scenes on the parent side anyway, usually. I don't think the young person worries about it too much until they get into situations that they don't know how to get out of. But we wonder, are they going to be okay? But we're like, oh, well, we'll just see what happens. But waiting to see what happens, and then they do get overwhelmed and they do get behind in a lot of things. They may just leave school all of a sudden without telling you. That's what I did when I left school the first time. I didn't tell my parents I was leaving. I just left because I didn't want to hear from them and I didn't want them to be disappointed, and I didn't want them to tell me that I couldn't leave or, I didn't want anyone to tell me what to do ever. So I just left because then I had control over it. Now, it wasn't the best decision to make, though it turned out okay. It could have turned out really bad. And being proactive and knowing that I was going to feel that way and that nothing had gone wrong, I should just try to stick through it. At least if I would have known about it, I would have had more information to make my decision. Instead, I just got scared and left, and maybe would have made a different decision had I known about it ahead of time, or my parents known about it ahead of time because they didn't have a clue that this was going to happen either. And as I said, this is both of you changing your identities at the same time. So we've talked a little bit about what's going on with you, with your identity, and those are not all the things, but those are some of the things. And with college freshmen, every single thing about their life has just changed because they've never lived by themselves. They've never had to make decisions on their own. They've never had so much free time. They've never had to deal with roommates. There's just so many things that they have to deal with, and all of it is new, and they have no idea what they're doing. And so their identity shift is even greater than ours, though still probably as painful and one that they need to know about ahead of time. I see a lot of families when this transition, when both people are changing their identities are shifting, they're looking, the parent and the child, because they're probably in conflict more, or as these really big feelings are coming up on both sides, it feels like failure. The parent probably feels rejected because the child is like fighting back against a lot of things. And I just want everyone to know that it's normal. And I think if you know ahead of time, this is a normal way of everyone transitioning, whether it's parents transitioning their kids out or kids that are transitioning to adults. This is just the way it is. So, parents, here's some things that you can do to make this a lot easier for you. First, look at all the ways before your child even leaves, look at all the ways that your life can change and what identities may shift that you don't realize are going to shift, like those you're not going to those school activities anymore. Because I think those are things that you don't really think about until school starts again. And maybe your friend down the street or whatever has kids still in activities and they're going to things. And then you're like, I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have any, I'm not going to see that person because they're so busy with the activities and I don't have them anymore. Also, that your child will regress some, just like if you think back I my daughter is the youngest, so I didn't have one after her. But I know that I read a lot about when you had like a 2-year-old and then you had a baby, that your 2-year-old might regress back and maybe start sucking their thumb again. Or maybe they would regress back and they had been a little bit potty trained, but then they're going back and having accidents or whatever. I see this as the same thing when they go away into their adult life for the first time. You may see them, some of the skills that you thought they had in place and that they were doing well with and did do well when they were in your home, they now don't do well with those things anymore. And that is temporary. So just know that if you see a regression, it is not necessarily a red flag or that anything's wrong. Certainly, you might want to ask some questions. And if you're working with me in the Resilient Launch, I would be able to assess those things based on what I know about thousands of kids and be able to help you to see what is something you should worry about and what isn't something you should worry about. But just know that they are probably not going to handle things as well as they did, same supports in place that they did before. Make sure that you don't get confused between being needed and being connected. So sometimes as a parent, we kind of get used to being needed by our kids, and it feels good. And it feels like we're important because our kids need us to do things. They're not going to need us, and they shouldn't need us to do a lot of things when they're an adult because that just handicaps them if we're doing a lot of things for them. But it is important to stay connected. I want to be connected with my children as long as I live, no matter how old they are. So that's different than them needing you. And don't feel like just if they don't need you anymore, that doesn't mean anything. That means that they're becoming an adult and becoming independent. And that's what we want. That's what we're raising them to do. So we want them to practice that independence. But do try to definitely do things to stay connected. And you might have to be the person doing that because they may be enjoying their freedom so much that they're like, I'm never going to text you or call you or whatever. Talk about it ahead of time before they go, like what your expectation is or what you would like to see happen. And then when you feel like connecting to them or contacting them, think about, is this because I feel uncomfortable and I need to talk to them, or is this just because I want to connect with them? So if it's because you feel uncomfortable and you need some reassurance, that would be a time not to check in. Only check in when you feel like it will be supportive of your child and supportive of your relationship. Make sure that you talk to your college freshmen about this before they leave home, that some of these things are going to happen and none of it means anything bad. It's normal. It's the way it goes. That talk to them about all the things that they're going to feel, the loneliness, the homesickness, the confusion, the overwhelm. Telling them those things, we might think, oh, that's, we don't want to make negative make them have negative ideas about what's going to happen, but they need to be aware that those things can happen so that they have a balance and can think about, okay, mom said that this was going to happen and not to worry, and then I'm going to get through this. And certainly they can contact you and get support from you, but I think it's important to talk about it ahead of time to make sure that they know these things will happen and that everything is okay and that you're there to just love them and support them. And make sure that you talk to your partner or co-parent about how your identities are going to shift because your partners or co-parent is going their identity is going to shift too. And maybe they don't realize it either. So talk to them about it and make sure that they know that's going to happen and talk about it ahead of time and talk about your fears about the change and what you would like to see happen and how you would like to organize it or orchestrate it so it doesn't feel so uncomfortable. So if the season feels harder than you think it should for you and for them, nothing has gone wrong. Just know that this is the way of things. This is what happens when we have adult children and they move away. And these identity shifts are part of life. We have them throughout our lives. This one's probably the biggest one for both people, and one of the only times it's happening at the same time. Most of the other shifts that we have, we're experiencing it and our kid is going on normally, or our kid is experiencing it and we're going on normally. Like the one I can think of in my recent life is that when my children had their children, their whole lives changed. And my life didn't really change that much. I mean, I had a grandchild and I could go love them and take care of them, but I wasn't losing sleep. I wasn't totally confused about what was going on in my life. They were experiencing the shift and I wasn't. And then as my mom ages and my husband's mom ages, we deal with that shift in our lives. And our kids are experiencing it too, because that's their grandparent, but not the same as we do because we're the ones that are doing more of the caretaking. So our whole lives we experience these shifts, but this one is difficult because we're both doing it at the exact same time about the exact same thing. And it makes it harder to navigate that with your young person. So if you would love help with this, I would love to help you. And I have the Resilient launch coming up and I have a priority list for it. I'm not going to take very many people because I want it to be so high touch and I want to just love on those kids and help them so much. So being on the priority list is going to help you because you're going to be the first to find out when it opens so that you can be on the list to be one of those people. And it will be at a reduced cost because I haven't tried this program before. But with all my experience with young people over the last 35 years, I know what I need to be doing to help these kids because I've heard all the stories and I've experienced so many things with young people and their families around this very age. And so that's why I thought I really need to give some extra support to this particular stage. So that's why I'm excited to be offering this. And so make sure that you get on the priority list. There will be, if you are watching this on YouTube, there will be in the comments, you will be able to sign up for it. It'll be in the description. If you're listening to this on a podcast, it will be in the show notes. If you are watching a clip of this on social media, there will be links either in the bio or in the comments. So there shouldn't be any reason why you can't get on the priority list for the Resilient launch. I'm so excited to offer this program. I know it's going to help so many families. I just want to walk in every season with you, but especially this one right now. So I'll talk to you soon.